Welcome into the Jordy Culotta Show. Wave your hand out there, baby!
Shout out to the show.
She puts the pinky into the nostril. Man, look at that.
Healthy competition, there's nothing like it.
Y'all grow up. The line's wrapped around the stadium. Different strengths. Mm-hmm. I just lost a tooth.
It's going to be fun.
You know, we might have a story.
I love what you're doing.
Ogeron wants to take us fishing this afternoon.
Sharif, you play for the bad boys of the SEC, man. We don't apologize to anybody.
A lot of people are saying you're going to be wearing number 7.
I don't really know. I want to.
He look crazy, Bill. Good feet on the old man.
Definitely come back. You know, I love.
We'll be right back with the Jordy Culotta Show. Welcome into a Friday edition of the Jordy Culotta Show, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet, live here on this Friday. As always, our friends over at Go down in LaPlace, Louisiana. Check them out online at GEAUXChevrolet.com. And if you're in the market for a brand new truck, a used car truck, they have fantastic prices that you will find online, and you can shop them all there, all the inventory over there. Metropolitan Health Group bringing you our phone line today. No guest here on this Friday, as we'll be in and out. Busy day inside the office over here at FM Digital Media that we're getting ready for. So a lot of exciting stuff happening. And as always, you can keep up with us on all of our social media platforms at Culotta Show. Make sure and tune in to Mic'd Up coming up this Friday for a little preview for a 4-game set over at the Box coming in this weekend that we'll touch on and talk about coming up here before we get out of here at some point over the next 2 hours. If you don't mind, hit that like button, share button, comment button. As if you're watching on YouTube, we could always appreciate that. If you're not, please if you're not already subscribed, make sure and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to keep up with all of the content that's coming out, just hit that notification button. If you're listening on podcast, we appreciate you being there. Make sure you subscribe to a podcast for us wherever you are, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcast from. You can check out the Jordy Culotta Show and all of our shows over there, including Mic'd Up and Out of My League and the Will Wade Show, as we are into March here, college basketball. It's best month, and we'll talk a little bit about conference tournaments. LSU ladies get going this afternoon at the SEC tournament versus Georgia. This is a tough matchup for Kim Mulkey and the crew. So we'll talk about that as we make our way down some of the news here on Friday. Hunter Fournette inside of the chat. Old boy didn't break the record last night. The Culotta jinx is real. That's right. You're welcome. Antoine Davis had a shot last night to take down Pistol Pete's scoring mark of 3,667 points, but he could not do it as he had 22 last night and came up just a bit shy as he falls short. Pistol Pete hangs on to the record that's been around since 1970. Now, there were some chirps afterwards by Antoine Davis and his dad and head coach of Detroit Mercy, Mike Davis, who we talked to yesterday. Both Antoine and Mike said that they would welcome an invitation to the College Basketball Invitational, the CBI, or any other postseason tournament, which would potentially allow Davis to continue in pursuit of Maravich. But right now, Detroit Mercy is 14-19 overall. They got knocked out of the Horizon League tournament last night with a 9-11 record. But look, the CBI, if you don't and unfamiliar with the College Basketball Invitational, it is a postseason tournament that chooses from a selection of schools that didn't get picked to the NCAA tournament. They didn't get picked to the NIT. A program that's below 500, they're still on the board. And especially a program that is below 500 that has a story, that has some type of draw, that has something that will move the meter to get viewership. And Antoine Davis potentially does. There is a caveat. All CBI teams that are selected for the field have to pay an entry fee of $50,000. I don't know anything about Detroit Mercy's athletic department. I got to imagine that $50K for a postseason tournament is not on the budget. It's not in the budget. Maybe somebody steps up and pays it, but hopefully, I think for a lot of us down here, especially in this part of the country, hope that Antoine Davis and Detroit Mercy's season is over and falling shy of the record, as he needed 26, he had 22, so Maravich's mark of 3,667 points stays intact. And there was a lot of text messages and a lot of celebration on social media last night once that was made final. And, look, I got to be honest, I never saw Pistol Pete play, and if I am being completely honest, I can't think of another athlete that I never saw in person. Pete, by the time I was 8 years old, Pistol Pete had passed away and had long, given up his basketball career. He was on a couple of those Celtics early teams and then, just kind of ran out of gas. His knees just let him down, and then ultimately he passed away on a pickup game in 1988 out in California. And, by the time I learned who Pistol Pete was, I was well into being a young sports fan and was captivated by people like Chris Jackson at the time, now Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, but, guys like that, and would learn about Pistol Pete just like through the movie, The Pistol. I mean, I remember watching that as a kid and kind of, putting all of it together, just how special and unique of a player he was. And then, as you get a little bit older and you learn the history and find out about, just what, his mark in Baton Rouge at LSU and in the SEC and traveling around, and some of the stories that just all come back to Pete Maravich at LSU. I went to bed, kind of with a smile on my face, thinking like that's how it's supposed to be. Pistol Pete should be the scoring leader in college basketball of just what his legacy in life has meant to the sport. Right? Even when you break down Davis's, stats next to Pistol's, it's not even a close comparison, right? Of just how crazy Pete's record is, of how he got there in 3 years without a shot clock and without a 3-point line. It's just the story is incredible. And you know, it'll take, if it was ever to be taken down, I think this is the only error where it could happen. I mean, where you could get a special case like a COVID year and get an extra season to play, where, you know, you've got a guy who's been playing for such a long time and, you know, been building these stats up, and, you know, over a 5-year time, I mean, the numbers and the amount of games just kind of allow it to happen. I mean, when you look at these things side by side, when you look at Pete and Antoine Davis side by side, last night was Davis's 144th game in 5 seasons. Pete Maravich accomplished 3,667 points in 83 games for LSU. I mean, it's staggering when you look at just how amazing it was of what Pete Maravich accomplished. I mean, who's the one player, who's the one athlete? Stewie, I don't mean to put you on the spot. I mean, take some time to think about it, and you can actually just kind of put this on our, we'll just call it our Southern Eye Center question of the day on our social media spots, and you know, you can just get back to us. Who's the one athlete that came before you never had a chance to see play, that you would pay to watch today? To me, it would be Pistol Pete. I mean, I can't, and not just because I'm caught up in the moment. I mean, it's always been just kind of like, I can't gobble up enough YouTube highlights of him, but it's still grainy, and I mean, you can get an idea of what LSU's court looked like back then by watching the video. But I'm telling, I would love to be in the Cow Palace in 1970, smelling the popcorn, listening to the shoes squeak on the floor, and watching Pistol Pete run up and down the floor in Baton Rouge. I mean, like, I would pay top dollar. I would pay, you know, name an amount. I would love to get that ticket to watch that happen. I can't think of another athlete, and I'm sure there are, you know, I mean, if I can get down and think about it, but I mean, I would pay any amount of money to watch Pistol Pete play today.
Are we talking college or pro?
It doesn't matter.
Pro, I'd probably go MJ. So that was like way before my time. And then college, I'd probably go Kevin Falk.
Those are two good ones. I guess, you know, I
maybe
mean,
Reggie Bush.
What's that?
Maybe Reggie Bush, because I was like really young when he was, you know.
Yeah, Reggie Bush in college was different. Michael Jordan seems like one. You know, I mean, Wilt Chamberlain comes to mind. I mean, some of the stuff that like Wilt Chamberlain could do in like the 50s and 60s at his size was just like freakish. I mean, I think he had like a 45-inch vertical or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just athletically, he was.
I think yesterday was the anniversary of his 100-point game.
Was it?
Yep.
But I mean, if you grew up in Baton Rouge, I mean, I still remember, you know, my son and I, Jordan, when he was like a baby, when he was like just learning how to really walk and run, on Saturday mornings, we would wake up, and he's like me, he's kind of like an early bird. We'd get up at like 6 o'clock in the morning. He would be up, and I would take him to LSU's campus and just let him run wild, like on like a Saturday like this coming up, like there was nothing going on campus. We get there, and Mike was usually being fed like early Saturday morning, so like he was really active, and like you could take him out there, and like Mike would be like jumping on the glass and splashing in the water, and for a young kid, a baby, I mean, it was just kind of crazy.
Oh yeah.
And we would we would run around. I would just kind of bring him to campus and just let him fly, just let him roll. I mean, there was no threat out there. I'd take him into open fields, open parking lots, and open campus, and just let him run. And one Saturday morning, we got all the way over to the Ag Center, to the Cow Palace, and one of these doors is open. And I don't know if it's still to this day, but I mean, this is, you know, he's 12 now. This was probably when he was 3 or 4 years old. You know, so, you know, 8 or 9 years ago, 7 or 8 years ago. And you can walk into the Cow Palace, and the locker room is still intact. Like the locker room that Pistol Pete got dressed in before every game is still, I mean, it's beat up. You know, I mean, the mirrors are broken on the wall, and, you know, the chairs are flipped over, and the lockers are still kind of busted up. But, I mean, if you want to get some nostalgic throwback, I mean, you can still get that feel. And, I mean, I still have a picture of him, like, I sat him in the locker because it has 23 etched in the wood of his locker where he was. And, I mean, you know, like that type of stuff growing up around here and the stories. I remember we used to sit in the back of Phil's Oyster Bar when it was in its original location on Government Street, like kind of right near Superior Grill on Government. The back room would always be filled with like people like Joe Dean Sr., who was the athletics director at LSU at the time, and just a bunch of old heads around LSU and around Baton Rouge that would get to storytelling about watching Pete Maravich play. And, I mean, it was as if when we were kids, it was kind of like folklore. It was kind of like, man, this stuff seems unbelievable, you know, like not really real. And then people like Randy Lanois, like BG and David's dad, who was around at that time and a basketball fanatic, still is to this day. I mean, he can, you know, bring back a library of players and memories that is just like, I mean, crazy when he gets going. But to hear him talk about watching Pete Maravich play, I remember my grandfather talking about like how they would at the time, you know, be lined up around the building for the freshman games. Maybe the worst season in LSU basketball history. You know, we're talking about that with this present team of kind of where they fall with only 2 conference wins and, you know, kind of finishing the season skidding into what feels like last place in the league, where that kind of ranks in the history of bad teams. And Johnny Jones's team only won a game on his last season. Trent Johnson had some really bad teams on his way out. The debatable worst team in program history is the 1967-68 team when Press Maravich, Pete's dad, took over, and he was coaching what at the time was the varsity squad because they didn't allow freshmen to play. And Pete's freshman season, I mean, people would be lined up around the building, like circled around the agriculture center, the Cow Palace, to watch the freshman game play, which was kind of like the JV game. They'd play it before the varsity game, and then people would file out. You know, like once Pete had dropped 50, 60 in a freshman game, they were like, it's over, bro. Let's go to the bars. And that team, I believe, won 2 games that year. Wow. And then Pete got there, and for 3 years, LSU was a draw, but they were never a championship contender. They went to the NIT his last year. I think his college career ended in Madison Square Garden in the NIT. But to hear people talk about watching him play, we had a football coach at Parkview, Kenny Giott, God rest his soul, who passed away a couple, you know, within the last couple of years, would always tell and talk about watching Pistol Pete play. We're doing a documentary on Mike Anderson, which I know we've talked about a little bit, which we're about to debut, and we're going to debut it on the Jordy Culotta Show channel here in the next couple of weeks. And I'm fired up for everybody to see it because of just how kind of special of a soul Mike Anderson is, and you know, some of the stories and going back to, you know, starting the restaurant and his time at LSU. His time at LSU coincided with Pistol Pete, and some of the stories he would tell about, like, Pistol Pete and Mike Anderson were best friends. Mike Anderson was the best player on the football team. Pete was the best player in college basketball at the time. They were the 2 kind of big men on campus. Like, when they were walking around, like, people kind of moved out of the way. You know, I mean, they'd give up their seat for Mike Anderson and Pete Maravich on campus at the time. And Anderson was he was a partier, you know what I mean? Like, he'd get after it. Pistol Pete, like, Pete was a known partier. Like, I mean, when his time in New Orleans, they've got stories of him, like, I mean, walking around the quarter, you know, like, tripping ball. I mean, like, he experienced the 70s. He loved the 70s. You know what I mean? 70s, groovy. New Orleans, Pistol Pete was just like a perfect marriage. That all started kind of at Baton Rouge, but Mike Anderson would tell stories about at the time. They'd go across the river, and there was a bar in Port Allen that they would always go to. And Pete was notorious for, like, starting to fight. You know, he would kind of be running his mouth. Well, people would kind of like pick on Pete. You know what I mean? Would kind of be like, this is the guy.
Him?
You know what I mean? Like nobody could really get over like that. This scrawny little white guy was the one that was just abusing basketball. I mean, he was kind of running through the college basketball game. And he would kind of start the fight, and Mike Anderson was like, like standing there, like taking 3 of these dudes on. And he'd come, like shirt ripped, bloody lip, knuckles all banged up, and he'd get in the car, and Pete be like laying in the back seat, like, how'd it go, Mike? He's like, I mean, Pete, after you started it, I mean, we all got our ass kicked. But it was, he had great Pete Maravich stories, and just hearing what it was like to be in Baton Rouge on LSU's campus with Pete Maravich at that time had to be really cool, and to hear his record staying intact, it feels right. I mean, I take a long time to say, to kind of get back to, last night when it was final with Antoine Davis and he was, coming up shy and it wasn't going to happen. It feels right. I mean, it feels like that's what's supposed to be in college basketball. Pete Maravich should be celebrated for generations on. I mean, my son's kids should know who Pete Maravich is vividly. Just because of how special and unique of a character he really is. I mean, it was amazing. And Brad David says, why didn't he work out in the NBA? I don't, again, like I said, I would have loved to have watched Pistol Pete play and really get an understanding of, his basketball journey. But if you go back, and I've watched, hundreds, I guess, it feels like, of hours of just kind of like Pete's stuff. I remember as a kid watching his training videos, and then once YouTube came out, you could go and like fall into holes of watching full games. I mean, I've watched him and Bernard King play in New Orleans, where I believe Pete had 50, and he was just kind of, the game was so easy for him, but it feels like, and anybody who has known. I know Randy Lanois is a listener here, and he saw Pete play not only as a collegiate player, but followed him in the pros and would make trips down to New Orleans and watch him play when he was a member of the Jazz. They can speak much more fluently on this than I can. This is just being taken away from YouTube videos, documentaries, and talking to people. It seemed like the transition from college to pro for Pete was very difficult, in the sense of he had this game and this style that really captivated college basketball, but once it got to the NBA, it was a lot less impressive to guys that were getting paid and were professionals. And like I said, Pete's personality, was he was very much a loner. He was very much a quiet, reserve at the time, kind of outlier. I mean, he was out of the pack. He didn't have a group of friends. He didn't have guys that he ran with, and it felt like that was a tough transition. But once he caught on, and once he kind of learned the nuances of the difference between college and the NBA, and his personality, people started to understand he is. You can sense the respect that professionals had for Pistol Pete at the time. I wouldn't label his NBA career as a failure. I really wouldn't. I mean, and look, like I said, I never saw him play 1 minute of professional basketball. But I mean, I've got enough knowledge and got enough, library of content that you can go back on and watch to see that, he still was pretty special at that level. I mean, there's that great clip of Red Auerbach, who is the, kind of he's kind of the architect of the Celtics. I mean, he kind of built the brand and built the team and won all the championships with Russell in the 60s, and, very progressive in the sense of trying to grow the game during a time where, he was very influential in it. And, Pete Maravich and Auerbach did like a training video one time, and Auerbach's he's the leader of the game at that time. Like when this video is being shot, he's
talking about
when he's snapping it between his legs, and Auerbach's got the cigar, and he's like, "My goodness, look at this." But I mean, like that's, I mean, you can see that. I mean, even the top elite, really respected him. And I don't think that he had a. I don't think his professional career was a failure. He looks so good in the Jazz uniform.
It's called red on round ball.
Red on round ball. Can you put that up? Look at Red Auerbach in that. How fire is that jumpsuit?
I mean, I had one of those as a kid. My mom
mean,
got
that
it for me
is
for Christmas. It was like the black Celtics with the green lettering.
There's still the best tracksuit I've ever seen and the best windsuit I've ever seen is Edwin Edwards, the former governor of Louisiana, in about 1984, it might be 86, when LSU's going to the Final Four.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a yellow Adidas LSU tracksuit on, and to this day, you could still wear it today, and people would be giving you compliments on it. It is
a lot of people don't know this.
Cover-up tracksuit I've ever seen. This one right here is pretty fire. I mean, like, look at Pistol, man.
6 or 7 years of age, what we call
What year is this, Stewie?
basketball, and takes in reaction drills, quickness drills to improve your quickness. Your
I don't even know. It doesn't even have a year on it.
Doesn't have it underneath it in the title. I mean, in the
Don't you get
description.
the feeling that when you're doing these things, the ball becomes
Sometime in the
sort of an
70s.
extension of your hand.
Exactly. That's exactly how I felt when I was growing
But
up. I'd
Pistol
dribble so
Pete's
much,
scoring
so
record
much,
stays intact
learning
as
drills to-
it was a good night for a lot of LSU fans, a lot of South Louisiana sports fans. Remember, Daily, we're brought to you by City Cafe, citycafebr.net. Get in touch with City Cafe online or stop in and see them at O'Neill and George O'Neill, where they've got daily lunch specials over there at City Cafe. They also have brunch on Sundays that you can check out at 10 p.m. Check them out at citycafebr.net, citycafebr.net. So Pistol Pete's scoring record stays intact. LSU baseball tonight will be hosting the Butler Bulldogs. They'll be in town for Friday will be a 1 o'clock and a 6:30 6:30 start tomorrow. 1:30 start on. Man, I'm screwing this up.
1:30 start today.
Is it one game today? I don't want to screw this up. So. All right, yes, here we go. I got it. All right, Friday, March 3rd, they got Butler at 6:30. Then on Saturday, they got a 1:30 start versus Central Connecticut. Sunday, they got Central Connecticut at 1 o'clock. And then on Monday, they got Butler again at 6:30. So that's your next 4-game stretch for LSU at the box. It gets started today as Paul Skeens will be back on the mound for the number 1 team in the country. Should be a really good environment as LSU gets back after a 7-1 start and a couple of games away over the last 4 as they won a thriller the last time out versus Texas in Austin as Gavin Dugas shut the door on the Longhorns in the 9th inning with a 3-run shot to send the sold-out Texas crowd home with the loss, and LSU comes back home tonight 7-1. As we said, they'll take on Butler, who's 2-6, and then Central Connecticut making their debut of the season as they'll be down here in Baton Rouge taking on LSU. I can't wait to see Skeens play again, man. Really, I mean that's what I'm most excited for. I mean, I don't know how much preview we can give you other than LSU taking care of business earlier this week and getting the ball back to maybe the best pitcher in college baseball here on Friday and looking to watch him work as LSU will get going at 6:30 this afternoon. So it'll be fun at the box this weekend. Hunter Hall, the Jazz placed Maravich on waivers in January 1980. He signed with the Celtics, so that clip had to be 1980. Yeah, but he's wearing the Jazz. He's wearing the Jazz uniform in that. I know he was a part of. The Celtics got beat in the finals. He was always kind of ring chasing at the end, and I believe the Celtics got beat in the finals in '81.
By the Lakers.
And he was on that team Not by the Lakers. It might have been by the Rockets. They had the Twin Towers. You had Ralph Sampson and somebody. I'm forgetting. Maybe a young Akeem.
Yeah, I was gonna say
it was a young Akeem. No. Because Akeem was in Michael Jordan's draft. Help me out there, basketball historians. I also saw a story yesterday about college football, and CBS Sports put out their top 10 quarterbacks of power rankings going into the season, and Jaden Daniels made the list at number 9. I'm on with my buddy Sean Fox every week up in Monroe on Thursdays, and was talking to Foxy yesterday, and something that had come up about spring football with LSU is there going to be a quarterback competition? And I know that this has been talked about a little bit, but CBS Sports put out their top 10 quarterbacks, and it was interesting to see where they had Daniels ranked at number 9 in the country. And the write-up, real quick, I'll read for you. It says, Jaden Daniels played well for LSU last season, and while I considered ranking him higher, some believe there's a chance, slim as it may be, that Daniels won't be LSU's starter come the fall. Maybe that'll be the case, but if LSU starts the year ranked in the top 10 and is viewed as a playoff contender, Daniels' 2022 performance will be a big reason why he has to be included here in the top 10 for CBS. This was written up by Tom Fornelli over at CBS Sports. This is what I'm referencing. The rest of the rankings look like this, and I don't have much of a problem with them. Caleb Williams is at 1 for USC. Michael Penix Jr., who was a bit of a surprise going back to Washington and the Huskies, is in at 2. Drake May is 3rd on the list. Jordan Travis, who opens up the season versus LSU, is a top 4 quarterback according to CBS Sports as he comes in at number 4. Bo Nix at 5. Michael Pratt down at Tulane, who can say that he beat Caleb Williams and USC in the Cotton Bowl. J.J. McCarthy, number 7 for CBS, coming in from Michigan. Sam Hartman, who transferred over to Notre Dame from Wake Forest in the offseason, is in at number 8. You've got Jaden Daniels at 9, and you've got Dylan Gabriel, who is up at Oklahoma, rounding out the top 10. And I agree with having Daniels on this list. I also agree that Daniels is going to be in a quarterback competition. Right? I mean, I think that Daniels has earned the right, just like Brian Kelly has said, to be the number 1 quarterback on LSU going into spring. But as every position, every single day in competition is always happening, somebody's coming after the job. And I got to imagine that the motivation that Garrett Nussmeier could take away from last season, especially the way that he ended it in the SEC title game, in just his individual performance, gave him a little, mental boost going into the offseason that, hey, I got a shot to play. I got a chance, a real chance to play. And so, maybe there is a little bit closer of a competition. I would also say the same for Jaden Daniels. I think that Daniels, like we talked about a lot last year, I think probably outperformed what he thought was going to be, possible for him stepping into LSU. I think there was a brief period where he didn't know if he was going to be the starter. Then he became the starter, and for the first 5 or 6 weeks, people were trying to unseat him as the starter, and then he really kind of started to catch some momentum as mid-October and November started to roll around, and by the end of the year, he was the guy. Before the injury at Texas A&M, I mean, he was the best quarterback for LSU's 2022 team, and I think it's non-debatable. I mean, I know I never fell into the conversation of they should be playing somebody else at quarterback last year. I was always secure with the fact that, hey, look, Daniels has to be the guy. You need his skill set or that type of skill set, and he's the only one that can bring that. But now you go into a offseason where the stories have changed at LSU. Not much, but they have. Still got a wealth of talent at wide receiver, which is going to help the quarterback out. But the offensive line is now a little bit more secure. Not a little bit. I'd say a lot more secure. going into this season. Not only from an experience standpoint, but starting to build some realistic depth, some real guys that you can look at, and if somebody goes down, whether it's on the road, at home, second half, first half, big series, you can say, hey, get in there. It's your time. And that's where they've been lacking the past couple of cycles, is having that real depth and that real experience of, guys that have played significant amounts of football. And I think that takes pressure off of the quarterback. Obviously it does, right? I mean, last year, Jaden Daniels was needed because his skill set was he could keep plays alive. If the protection broke down, he could get out of the pocket, keep some time, make a play, and give you the best chance to have a successful offense. That's what LSU needed last year. And Daniels was fantastic at that. He was a lot better at it than I thought he was going to be once it really clicked for him. I mean, he became a really threat to throw it. I mean, people had to respect his ability to throw it down the stretch. And, his ability with the run and the pass of what that type of pressure can do for a defense, that's tough to match. I mean, that's in today's football world when, coordinators, offensive play callers are looking for dual threat and run pass options at the quarterback and everybody being accounted for. Jaden Daniels is about as close to the prototype as you can find. So I do believe that Daniels is the starting quarterback at LSU going into spring. But I also believe that Nussmeier is nipping on his heels and letting him know that, hey, there's not a lot of room for error here. And I don't anticipate that they lose either one of these guys. I was asked yesterday if there's a starter named out of spring, which I don't anticipate there to be. I think it'll just kind of naturally play its way out, and you'll be able to pick it up on who's the guy, on what's the rotation, on what's the sense of who they want to play. And I believe that both guys will be intact. If it would have been 3, if Walker Howard was still here, I think you would have been on the same cycle as you were last year. Of you're destined to lose one. Somebody knows that, they're 2 plays away rather than 1 play away from going out there. So, I think that obviously this quarterback race at LSU is going to be, locally, I think it's going to be fascinating. I think nationally people are kind of writing it off and saying that Daniels is the guy. And, I get that, but I don't think it's just, I don't think it's just, it's his. I think there's going to be a real competition for this job. I mean, I do. I think that each week, that this thing moves on going into spring is going to ratchet up the competition. I mean, I really think that you're going to come out of competition with, 2 guys who feel motivated going into the offseason and into fall that they have an opportunity to play next year. And leaving and going somewhere else doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, really.
No, not at all.
You don't want to reset, start over. For a guy like Walker Howard who's got a lot of time in football left, that makes some sense. I mean, you can go and you still got a lot of football left to play in front of you. But, for a guy like Nussmeier who's, his clock has been ticking.
Yeah.
I mean, it's time. And, I mean, obviously Daniels, I mean, he's a senior. I mean, he's got nowhere to go, really, in the sense of, I mean, you got to play now and you got to play here. So, it's going to be a good competition. I really believe that. I mean, I really think that, it's going to be a true competition. I think, like I said, Daniels will get the first crack, and like Brian Kelly said post bowl game, that they're going to respect him and treat him as the starter and as the number 1 guy, but they also know that they've got capable depth and backups behind Daniels who can play at this level, and they proved it last year. So, but I also think that Brian Kelly knows so well how to handle these conversations and handle the public sentiment on this and the way that he presents it to the public. I thought last year was a masterclass of keeping 3 guys at the same position engaged, motivated, and bought in, as it felt like all 3 of them, really thought that they could win the job. And that's probably really tough to do internally. I think that, to keep 3 guys that are playing the same position who don't see, a lot of promise or believe there is promise, that's tough to build from a head coaching standpoint. And I thought Kelly last year really, he handled that brilliantly. But, you think about the makeup of this LSU team now and the skill set of the quarterback position. Last year, the box you had to check if you were going to play quarterback at LSU is you had to be mobile. You had to be a threat to run the football because the offensive line was so unproven and still so young and so many question marks that they were going to have to figure this thing out really on the fly. Now come back for another season, year 2 under Brian Kelly. They've done a tremendous job of building the stability of the offensive line early on. Brad Davis deserves a ton of credit in the way that he has recruited, developed, and brought these guys in ready to play. Obviously, I don't know how many Emory Jones and Will Campbells there are in the world, but for some reason, LSU got 2 of them in the same cycle, and both of these guys are going to play a ton of football before they're both first-round picks and stalwarts in the league for, a decade plus. But now you've got bookend talents that you can count on. You've got a center that's played a season of football, or at least you've got a guy on the roster that has the experience of playing a season of football at center. And then you've got a lot of young talent infused with some guys coming back who's played football. I'm thinking guys like Miles Frazier to Lance Hurd. You've got guys that have played a ton of football, and you've got a 5-star coming in who's ready to play all the football. So the offensive line, in my opinion, is really going to be one of the strong points of the team at some point. Like at some point they're going to exude and, kind of shuffle up to the front of the pack as, the maybe the best unit on the team, or at least one of them. Most dependable. And if that's the fact, well, you still want to have a mobile quarterback. You still want a guy back there that's a threat. You still want somebody that if it breaks down or if you have to make a play, they can. And LSU, luckily, with Nussmeier and Daniels, has that guy. I think Nuss is a little bit more athletic than he showed off, and he's not scared to make a play with his feet. But ideally, you'd like to just kind of keep that guy clean, protect him, and put the ball in the hands of all these freak athletes on the outside. Right? If there was one drawback from Daniels last season and kind of trying to find his way and, starting to ride the bike with the training wheels and kicking the training wheels off, was that the production of the wide receivers, which was without a doubt best room in the program last year. that was the room with the most talent last season, really underperformed, and I don't think it was all their fault. I think that there were some things that they could have done better, but it wasn't all because of them. And then once Nussmeier gets into the game late in the season, you see the ball again, whipped down the field, and Malik Neighbors and, guys are making plays over the top. Brian Thomas, just plays that you're like, whoa, this is a different matchup if you're LSU. That was Georgia. They were putting pressure on. They were never a threat to win the game, but you could see Georgia was struggling with the style in which they were throwing at them. So I think the ask is different on the quarterback. I think it's a different responsibility this year. You know, and if Nussmeier can't protect the ball, then he's out of the race. You know, I mean, early on when you saw him against Southern and you saw him in some spots, you were, you know, I mean, it was very evident and clear, at least to me. And I remember saying at the time, oh, now I understand on why he wasn't pushing for the competition really that hard. He doesn't protect the ball. And coaches put, you know, a premium, obviously. I mean, that's, you know, look, it's a very obvious statement of not turning the ball over. And Daniels was a little overprotective at the start of it, right? And once he started to take a couple of shots and try to fit it in a couple of windows that he looked at early in the season and decided against, I mean, LSU started to become a little bit more productive on that side of the ball. So, Don Gill, Georgia never struggled. Again, Don, listen to what I said. They were never a threat. LSU was never a threat to win the game. But when LSU started pushing the ball down the field and throwing the ball down the field with Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas and Mason Taylor, when they were pushing it down the field, that's when Georgia looked as if they were a little confused. By no means were they getting beat. But that was the formula. It's the same formula that C.J. Stroud and Ohio State used a couple of weeks later when they brought all those freaks in at wide receiver. I'd imagine they looked at the LSU film when they were saying, fellas, look, they were moving the ball on these guys with, you know, Kayshon Boutte and Malik Neighbors and, you know, all these wide receivers that are very comparable to what we got. You know, and that was Nussmeier that was throwing it over their head. So, you know, I mean, look, by no means am I saying that they had Georgia on the ropes. They had a style. They threw a style at Georgia where Georgia was a little wobbly. I mean, they were a little, you know, they kind of had their head on the swivel, kind of looking like, what's going on? Where? I mean, this is, you know, it's, you got two quarterbacks that can play at a high level, man. LSU's sitting again in a very good spot. I mean, last year at this time, we were talking about three guys that you could win with in the SEC. Miles Brennan, Garrett Nussmeier, and Jaden Daniels. This season, you still got both of those guys in Daniels and Nussmeier who had the most experience and now can, you know, really has the confidence of the competition that they can be the starter, both of them, going into another season. I don't think you lose either of them. I think you keep both guys in the program, and LSU's going to be sitting in a really good spot at quarterback, you know, for at least for the upcoming season. And I'm hearing really good things about Ricky Collins. You know, I mean, there's another youngster in the program that's proving he's worthy of the, you know, Power 5 scholarship and you know, pressure that comes along with, you know, at some point you're going to be the guy.
Been screaming it for 3 years.
Huh?
I said I've been screaming it for 3 years.
Got a whip. Got a whip, man. I mean, once he learns what he's looking at, you know, I mean, he's been counting on a lot of guys just running past, and his talent of just kind of putting it into windows of, you know, not allowing high school kids to be able to defend and, you know, and he's going to get it because he's a very smart kid and he loves football. And, you know, he's got two guys that he can look up to that are going through it right now that can give him a little bit of a roadmap of how to form his own path. And when it's his time, it's going to be his time. And I think, you know, more importantly than anything, what LSU has done at the quarterback position, and I think you can compliment, you know, this goes back to Burrow, is they've got on a natural cycle now where you don't have to, you know, you don't have to freak out and blow people's eligibility when it's not time to do that. You don't have to play them before their clock should really start. You know, I mean, we there's so many examples and lists of guys along the way that, you know, LSU has just played way too early and asked way too much of before it was their time to really step onto the scene, that now they've got this natural cycle of veterans fighting for the starting job and young guys not having the pressure to play immediately and being able to kind of get into the program, get developed, and wait their time to get onto the field. So, I mean, that's a great spot where they're at, and they got to continue to, recruit the quarterback at a high level. But, when you have 3 guys on the roster like they were, like they've had, and they kind of lost Walker Howard a little sooner than I thought they were going to lose the quarterback. I thought Howard was going to go through spring, and then one of them was going to leave. But Howard ended up leaving before spring. If you've got 3 guys on the roster, if some point Ricky Collins, comes in and plays, and like 2 years from now, you've got 2 guys that feel like they can play, and there's a younger guy that feels like he's a 5-star that should be, cracking. I mean, you're going to lose one. I mean, it's just kind of that's the nature of the position. And with college football, with college sports' rules now, where you can jump into the transfer portal, you'll be on a different team tomorrow, you'll be playing by tomorrow night. It's easy to do. All right, getting a couple of basketball historians helping me out. I believe the 76ers won the championship in '81. That time we were talking about. I believe that the Sixers beat. No. I guess it would have been the Sixers and the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals, and it would have been. I think it was the Rockets and the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals, and the Celtics beat the Rockets in the finals. Somebody help me out on that. A lot of you talking about Jaden Daniels and Garrett Nussmeier. It's going to be good competition, man. Starts next week. All right, the Carpool Queen is here. We'll reset, and we will get back here to the Jordy Culotta Show, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet.
Hey Baton Rouge, when traveling through Natchez, Mississippi, whether you need to fill up your vehicle or your belly, stop by Go-Mart and On The Go Deli. Go-Mart has clean restrooms, community coffee, an awesome beer cave, and a great selection of anything you might need on your trip. So stop by Go-Mart at 4 Sergeant Prentice Drive as you're entering Natchez on the left, and visit Tom and Wright Granning and their awesome team at Go-Mart.
In a wreck, Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys is ready to go to work for you. Come meet your team.
I'm your intake specialist. I coordinate your case and connect you with your attorney and paralegal.
That's us, your legal team.
Thanks. And we'll fight to get you every dollar you deserve.
I'm your settlements and disbursement manager, and I'm here to get you paid on time.
I'm attorney Gordon McKernan. Put our team to work today. Just call us. Get it done.
Are you looking for sound financial advice? Then get in touch with Daniel Newman of Edward Jones. You can call him today at 225-261-8262 or email him daniel.newman@edwardjones.com. If you're planning for retirement, saving for college, for children or grandchildren, or just looking for sound investment opportunities, get in touch with Daniel today, 225-261-8262, located on Magnolia Square Drive in Central. Daniel Newman of Edward Jones.
Don't let the name fool you. Men's Total Health has offerings for the ladies, too. Guys, is your wife or partner suffering from urinary incontinence, low sexual desire, or pain during sex? Then the O-Shot might be for her. Don't let it scare you. It's totally natural. It's PRP. And Mike Roach and the crew at Men's Total Health will make you as comfortable as you can be. Contact me for more information, Katie at jordyculottashow.com, and I'm happy to tell you everything that Men's Total Health has to offer for the ladies.
Fourier Insurance Agency, established in 1946, locally can help you with any of your home, auto, commercial, contractors, life and health insurance today. Give them a call, 225-383-0682, or log online to FourierAgency.com. Donaldsonville Glass and Body, the trusted name in frame, body, and automotive paint repair since 1977. They have served their customers for over 45 years. You can find them online at dgbauto.com or stop in and see them Railroad Avenue and Division Street out in Donaldsonville, Louisiana. Look, they can help you with your insurance claims. They can make the repair process as stress-free as possible. I'm speaking from experience here. I've got numerous windshields, body repair, all done by Kenny and the crew over at Donaldsonville Glass and Body. They are, without question, the most well-equipped shop in the area. Stop in and see them today. Shop them online, dgbauto.com, or stop in and see the crew over in Division Street in Donaldsonville, Louisiana. Donaldsonville Glass and Body. Hey fellas, it's Jordy Culotta for my friends over at Men's Total Health. Guys, do you suffer from fatigue, decreased libido, erectile dysfunction, weight gain or loss of muscle mass, signs of depression, anxiety, hair loss, mental fog, general loss of interest? Then you might be suffering from low testosterone. Go see my friend Mike Roach and his great team over at Men's Total Health, over in Metairie at menstotalhealth.net online. And stop in and see how they can change your life today. A simple shot and some knowledge from Mike Roach can get you back up, moving with your energy, get your sex drive back, build your muscle mass, make you feel young again. All online, menstotalhealth.net. Red Stick Sports, a local staple in Baton Rouge to all sports fans, was founded back in 1981 and has remained a family business for over 40 years. Today, they still have the great selection on the floor, but they're also a leader in custom apparel for businesses, sports teams, and other groups. Take it from us, everybody over here at FM Digital Media. They help us out with all of our apparel. Let them help you out today. Go ask for Cody over at Red Stick Sports. Check him out online at redsticksports.biz.
We're all from different places and backgrounds. We've each experienced our own versions of life, but in the end, we're all on the same team. I'm part of that team, along with these players in purple and gold.
Kayshawn Buddha, Malik Neighbors, Miles Frazier,
Kyron Lacy,
Greg Brooks.
Whether on the field or in the courtroom, your team matters.
So join our team.
make a difference.
Bet. Let's get it done.
All right, welcome back here to the Jordy Culotta Show, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet. as always. Check our friends out online at GEAUXChevrolet.com. Don't forget about our friend Rhett Bourgeois over at RMB Builders. Rhett Bourgeois and the crew are on Instagram. You can find them there, where Rhett and his crew have lots of projects moving, including Katie's house as they move to Phase 2.
Phase 2, baby.
According to the Destroyer, Latoya.
Did she say Phase 2 a lot?
Yeah. You've never heard her
No.
press conference when she did the Phase 2 thing?
No.
When Fletcher Mackel kept asking her about...
Why did she say Phase 2? About what?
I think they were asking her about businesses being open and people
COVID.
were opening.
Okay, yeah.
It's one of her classics.
Latoya. God. When's that going to go away? We can stop talking about it.
Hopefully soon, but it seems like
like
they're screwing up this recall thing too.
Yeah.
How? Why?
Because New Orleans is just
New
fucked.
Orleans is just backwards, bro. They just
yeah.
the political corruption runs a lot deeper than the mayor's office.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, she's corrupt AF. You know what I mean? Like, she's bad corrupt, but I mean, it runs a lot deeper.
Yeah.
Than that,
but this has been going on.
I mean, like,
in New
hundreds
Orleans.
and hundreds of
Oh
years.
my
You know what
God.
I mean?
Everything there is so corrupt.
What was the other mayor in New Orleans that like got arrested?
Ray Nagin.
Yeah.
He's doing time right now.
I remember that
he
like
got
as a kid.
arrested.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like Latoya should do time.
It does.
You know what I mean?
It feels like she's going to do something
no
soon.
No way that what she's doing is legal.
I mean, Coach, for Mardi Gras, she was on a
whole different level.
That was so stupid. That was so ignorant.
She said yesterday in her press conference that she flipped the float off because they flipped her off first.
Who cares?
Yeah,
You're the mayor of a city. It doesn't matter what somebody does to you.
Right.
Yeah, that should not hurt your feelings.
No.
But I think what really happened was that the float held up a sign that said Vappy Mardi Gras rather than Happy Mardi Gras, and Vappy was the security guard that she was banging all day at the Pentabla. You know what I mean? It's like, bro, life's about choices.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you bang your security guard all day at a city that wants to make fun of you, somebody's going to hold a sign up.
Right.
Which, by the way, I think Vappy Mardi Gras is just
That's
brilliant.
hilarious. It really is brilliant. I didn't see that
brilliant.
sign.
Wish I would have saw that sign.
No.
But
probably wouldn't have saw it anyway.
That was so cringy, those pictures of her.
Deron Tross, Nagin is not in jail. He's been out since 2021. Sorry, Tross. He did.
Hey, why did he go to jail?
He was doing something. It was fraud. He was in bed with a construction company, and he was sending them work through the city and catching kickbacks from it. Latoya's got to be catching a kickback somewhere.
You know she is.
You know, somewhere she's got her hand out.
Yeah, I got it. You know,
I think I saw where like her foundation, or maybe not her foundation, but some.
She has a foundation?
Not a foundation.
She's definitely funneling something through
something that she formed while in city government. Whatever the plan was, she's had to that organization has had to repay the city like over $1 million.
That's not shocking at all.
Not at all.
Right?
Like, not at all.
I mean,
what would be more shocking is if she actually paid it.
Well, yeah.
Right?
Yes.
I mean, like,
it would be.
Like, it's not shocking that she was recalled.
No,
what would be the most shocking is if they actually recalled her.
Yeah, it would.
You know what I mean?
You're right.
I don't expect her to have any consequence for all the time and effort and signatures that that Eileen Carter and the No Latoya organization went out and was able to kick up.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean,
it's wild.
It's wild, man.
It really is.
It's wild. It's wild. But
wait, I didn't realize
What?
Ray Nagin was a Cox cable executive before he became mayor of New Orleans. Yes.
Yeah, well, I mean, what's the two biggest organizations in New Orleans?
Yeah.
Cox and Energy.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, and Entergy's pretty crooked too, right? Down there. Isn't
think
there always
so.
weird stuff going
Yeah,
on down there with
don't they always,
Entergy?
I mean,
like,
anybody
charge
whose
people
corporate
extra?
headquarters is in New Orleans,
Yeah.
you would think something's
going on here.
Something ain't adding up.
What are we doing? What's
every
shady
time
going
there's
on
always
back here?
street lights flashing over there, you know, people are always like, "Oh, it's crooked Entergy."
Yeah.
Like, is it? Is that why the lights are always out?
Nobody wants you to see what's going on.
I know.
All right, make sure to hit that like button, share button, comment button. We talked about LSU baseball getting a series going tonight. We mentioned Jaden Daniels, one of the stories of CBS football's or CBS Sportline's off-season stories of the top 10 quarterbacks in college football. Pistol Pete's scoring record stays intact. I love to see Pat Forty just melting.
Everybody's melting.
I love to see Pat Forty melting on this. I mean, just 40 and his his problem. I guess it's with LSU. I don't know what it is.
It seems like it.
It is very it's almost like laughable.
Kind of weird.
It is weird and strange to be in that position, to be worried about LSU basketball.
Yeah.
Like, you cover college basketball for a living. You got access to Kansas, Kentucky, Duke, North Carolina, Gonzaga, all these teams that are just like, and you are worried about LSU basketball, a program and an athletic program that won a football national championship in the last 4 years. You're worried about their basketball program? I mean, it is so weird.
It is really weird
to see like all of this emotion from these Dick Vitales and Pat Fortys and Tim Brandos of the world that care so much.
It's just those three, really, right?
I think that Dan, is it Walken from USA Today? I think he's
also anti-LSU.
He's in on it for sure.
Well, Antoine Davis still has a chance.
If they buy their way, if they want to buy their way and chase this thing, go ahead, man.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, this has almost become like, all right. You're almost going to play double the amount of games that the guy played to get the record.
100% he is, yeah.
It's like if you can't get it in 145 games.
I know. He's just 4 points shy, though. 4
3.
points. 3? I thought it was 4.
Good math over there, Kate.
I'm reading that it's 4, so my bad. I guess they're wrong.
Look, I read this morning that it was 3, so
I think Katie's right. He had 22. He needed 26.
It's
Look,
a math off.
6 minus 2 equals.
It's a math off.
I
feel kind of sorry for the kid. That had to be like a big letdown, right? I know Hunter Fournette's going to come at me hard on this, but that was kind of a cool thing. The ghost of Pete prevails, though.
It's 3 shy. This is ESPN.
Okay. All right.
ESPN news.
Either way,
math.
very few points
within
shy
4
of breaking the record. Within 4. That's right.
He
within
did finish
4.
22. So I don't know.
And I get where everybody's coming from with the
26.
COVID season.
Yeah,
I get it.
What?
I get where everybody's coming from with the COVID season and eligibility. I totally
look,
get it.
If he gets it, if he'd have got it last night, there would be an asterisk by it.
Yeah, there would be.
There would be a little caveat next to either Pete's name or next to Antoine Davis's name in that, Pete played outside of the shot clock era and he played without the 3-point line.
Can you imagine the numbers that he would have put up?
He didn't play his freshman season.
Right.
Can
you even imagine
he'd
the
probably
numbers
have
he
like
would have?
5,000 points.
Easy,
I don't
right?
know I guess they didn't keep stats when he was a freshman.
Yeah, probably not.
But I would love to know. If he averaged 44 points a game in 3 years, say that out loud, bro. 44 points a game with no 3-point line.
In only 83 games played.
How many? Let's just take a stab at what he scored his freshman season. If he played 30 games, and for 3 seasons before that year or after that year, he averaged 44. Let's just say he averages 40. Mm-hmm. Throw another 1,000 points on top of it.
But did he play his freshman year at all?
Yes, he played on the freshman team.
Yeah, they had like freshmen and
they had an actual freshman team because they couldn't play.
Yeah.
Think how
I didn't realize
look at the legions that the NCAA has come, and they're still ass backwards.
Right.
Look how far they have traveled. Pete Maravich's freshman year, which is 68.
Yeah, something like
Freshmen are not allowed to play basketball.
I know. But I didn't realize LSU had a freshman team.
Well, they didn't.
They did.
Everybody did.
Yeah. I didn't know that.
Like
I didn't know they had that.
Scored 741 points as a freshman.
Oh my goodness! All right,
That's strange.
4,000 points.
Yeah.
Untouchable.
Yeah,
you can play for a decade, son.
Yeah, you can. You
can catch COVID again.
Yeah.
It's
grad transfer, everything.
Wherever you want to go, have dad coach you at another school. It ain't happening. Think if Pistol Pete would have played at least every second half of the game he played with a 3-point line.
Yeah.
Forget playing the whole game. Just give him the 3-point line for a half of every game that he played.
He'd get 20 easy.
Oh, my God, dude. If he's averaging 44 a game without the 3-point line, and you give me half of that with the 3-point line, he's averaging 55.
Yeah.
A lot of his shots were from 20 feet. It's not even close on comparing scorers to him.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
It's
Like,
really
you can
not.
bring me your compilation of numbers. You can bring me all of what you want. And I never saw the guy play. Like, I mean, I got no physical eye record of seeing this. I'm just going by the videos. I'm just going by the storytellers. I'm just going by, you know, the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
But
So are you happy that the record didn't
hell
get
yeah.
broken? You are? Okay.
Hell yeah.
Oh, but sweet Antoine's dad yesterday. And
I love
everything.
him. You know, and, look, and in that race, there's no shame in finishing second.
Right.
Like, I mean, if I'm the second behind Pistol Pete in scoring, it's almost like, well, bro, I mean, like, you know, you're second on the list to our guy,
Yeah.
Cal Ripken.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody's ever going to break.
Our BFF now.
Nobody's ever going to break Cal's record.
What is the most
Consecutive games played.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Read that in his book.
who's second on the list?
AR.
Like, really? Like, who is second on the list? I would love to know in baseball right now, who is second on the list of consecutive games played? Let me get the record for our
Ripken?
Iron Man, who likes his eggs over easy. 2,632 games consecutively is what Cal Ripken played, having surpassed Lou Gehrig's streak of 2130 that had stood for 56 years, and many had deemed as unbreakable. What's the record now for most games played? I mean, didn't Brett Favre at a while when he was hopped up on pills?
Mm-hmm.
You know, when he was like, he was addicted to pain pills. Didn't he play like 5 straight years of football where he never sat a game?
Yeah,
that was
it
like
was something like that.
That was like his deal. And then you
Man.
like kind of find out he was like playing the whole thing on Percocet, and it was like, well, I mean, damn, dude.
Tyrann Mathieu had a stretch where he was like playing every game for like 3 or 4 seasons where he made every game, played every snap.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I believe it.
It was like the last few seasons he's played like every game, every snap, at like 3 different positions.
297? Oh, Favre, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Favre.
That's wild.
Probably sent more dick pics. I mean, yeah.
Definitely. If he
Yeah.
was on
From June of
Percocet, yeah.
82 from June of 82 to September of 87, Cal Ripken played in consecutively 8,264 innings.
Oh my God.
Not only did he not miss a game, he didn't miss an inning.
Like,
How do you do that?
How does he even walk?
I know.
mean, baseball's a little lighter on your body.
It is,
right,
Coach,
it
but at
is.
shortstop, that's it. Like, I'm moving
Yeah.
like a linebacker. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
but
I'm
like-
running.
It's not like you're not like colliding with somebody.
Agreed.
Or like
Agreed.
hitting bodies, basketball. Like, it's,
Maybe that's why he sat so long at breakfast that day.
Sure, not a talker.
oh, I know he's
Not a talker.
type of guy, like a
Totally.
real grunt when he
Has to
gets
be.
up
Oh, he's
or
definitely a
sits
grunter,
down.
dude. Every time he gets out of bed, it's probably,
Oh my God, that annoys me so
So
bad.
sick of this. He's like, oh, my back.
I mean, like,
Somebody
ankles,
always grunting.
knees, hips.
I'm so glad y'all aren't always grunting in here. I would be so annoyed. You don't. If you got up and down from the chair
I
and
mean, I'm not a
grunted
Cal
every
Ripken
time.
grunter, but
Yeah.
I mean,
I'll get a little grunt in there every
I
now
mean,
and
everybody's
then.
got a
If I'm
little
sore-
grunt, but like.
If I'm
you
sore,
know.
I'll get
I
a
mean,
little.
Stewie, piss
like-
off on your grunts, your 25-year-old body,
I know,
dude. Give
right?
me a
You're
break.
not tired or worn out.
Made of rubber bands over there, dude.
You don't even need sleep.
I really don't. Like,
mean-
if we're being honest, I don't.
At 25, I wasn't stretching to do anything.
Coach,
Nothing.
Coach,
I could get out of bed and sprint at 25.
Oh
we
my
went and play
gosh.
basketball
First step could've
yesterday.
been a sprint.
We went and play basketball yesterday. I didn't stretch one time.
You
I just
shouldn't.
Of course
got on
you
the
didn't.
court and
You
just
shouldn't.
started shooting.
Of course.
I'll warm up at some point.
Yeah,
I
that's
did not
your,
warm
your
up
warm up
last
is just
night.
starting to play.
Yeah.
Right? To be 25 again.
Stephen
man.
Miller, Jordy, any backroom chatter about when the sanctions are going to be cleared for LSU basketball? I think that is the most that would be the most just kind of like question at this point is like, all right, look, man, you've had all your hearings, you've got all your evidence, you've done all your stuff. When do you report back on this? I know that there are numerous amounts of schools, a number of schools that are looking to talk to Will Wade. People would love to just sit down and talk with him to see where he is as far as, hey, do you want to coach our basketball program next year? And people from name a league.
Don't say Ole Miss.
Name a league. Hell yeah, Ole Miss. wants
Don't
to
say
talk
Ole
to him.
Miss.
Yeah,
Damn it.
absolutely.
Jordy, no.
Katie, I mean, look, you can't be mad if the man goes to Ole
Absolutely.
Miss.
I'll be hurt. I'll
Once
be
his
hurt.
name is cleared, it's on. I mean, like he will have a job within 72 hours of once his name is cleared.
But
I don't know. I don't know when.
SEC?
I don't know when that's going to happen. Where?
You think it'll be in the SEC?
It may not be to start in the SEC. I think that there may have to be a prove it pattern. But here's the deal with Wade and what athletic directors are going to realize. Whether he's coaching McNeese or whether he's coaching Ole Miss, when he pulls up, he's got players. Like, he's got bona fide, legit, ready to win players.
Oh, God, he's Jerry Maguire. Who's coming with me?
Oh, no. He's saying, you're coming with me.
Yeah.
And
he
you're coming
knows.
with me. I'm hand-picking who's coming with me.
I was just watching Trent Wofford last night.
I mean, it's...
I wish he
and
would come
that's
back
that's
here.
the non-negotiable factor with all sports.
Is there no way in hell that he could come back to LSU?
Oh, I don't know that. I mean, I can't speak for LSU.
Like, what are the chances?
I could speak for Will Wade, and Will
You
Wade
think
would
he would?
definitely have the conversation.
Oh, he kicked that door in.
You think he
Absolutely.
would? He would
No
want to
doubt
come back
about
here?
it, man.
Yes.
Absolutely.
He realizes what he could be here. Like,
No,
he realized.
everyone
he
knows what he
doesn't
could be
realize
here.
what it could be here.
He knows.
He had it here. Like, it was moving.
It was right here in
You
front
know,
of him.
I mean,
Right
LSU
here.
was a top 4 basketball program in the SEC.
We almost had it.
Like you in that 5-year run when you were the top 4 team, maybe we all took it for granted.
We did.
I did.
But now look at it.
Yeah,
We did.
I did.
You're the 14th best program in the conference. There's 14 teams.
I was pissed for
You know what I
losing in
mean?
the Sweet 16.
Absolutely. Like, wasn't that cool to get pissed off about?
Yeah.
Getting knocked out of the NCAA tournament rather than getting pissed off about, having a 13-point lead at halftime in your regular season home finale and ended up losing for the 14th time of the year?
That just hurt my stomach.
I
You know,
know.
I mean, it's like
Damn.
you were a top 4 basketball program in the conference every single year. A conference that has Tennessee,
Michigan.
Arkansas, Kentucky, Alabama now, who's the number 1 team in the country. I mean, think about it. You were on the same pace and trajectory of Alabama. Nate Oates and Will Wade hated each other. You know why they hated each other? Because they were doing the same thing. I mean, like, every time I show up, I got to see this prick.
God, I know. It's always Alabama.
Every party I go to, he's at. Every girl I want to take out, he's talking to. Everywhere I show up, I see this guy. I mean, like, that's who Will Wade and Nate Oates were. That's why they're telling, get off the floor. That's why they're F you. That's why they're, taking each other's. Will Wade hired his videographer last year and got on the show and wanted to talk about it.
What a move.
You know what I mean? Like, that's how petty it was. Hey, I want to make an announcement. About what? About our videographer. I'm like, say what? He's like, yeah, I took him from Oates and Bama. I'm like, all right. Fuck it, let's do it. You know,
Oh, God.
that's how petty it had become between. But they're the number 1 team in the country.
Yeah.
You know, like, they've got lottery picks.
They couldn't do it in football this year, so they're going to do it in basketball.
Yeah, it might not do it in basketball.
They always find a way. I don't know. They've been through some adversity, and here they still are.
Pat downs.
I know. They got to be distracted at this point.
Marcus Stewart, Jordy was supportive of him breaking the record yesterday. Now today he's happy he didn't. Boy, I tell you. No, I'll tell you, Marcus.
Boy, I tell you.
What do you mean? It wouldn't have broken my heart if Antoine Davis would have snapped the record last night, but because he didn't, and it's still with Pistol Pete, it's
Yeah.
cool. You know? there's no reason to say, you talk out of both sides of your mouth. All right. I guess I do. Don't watch. But yes, supporting the kid, like, in the moment, that's a cool moment for the kid.
Yeah, it is.
You know,
That's the only
if
thing
he'd have
about
scored
it.
his 26 points and broke the record, nice job. Man.
Yeah.
But like I said yesterday, a year and a half, 2 years from now, who's really going to recognize Antoine Davis as the college basketball scoring leader? We've been talking about Pistol Pete for the last 50 years around this number.
I literally didn't even know Pistol Pete was the all-time scoring.
Yeah, I
leader
didn't
in
either,
college.
actually. So it wouldn't have really hurt my feelings, but
same.
I get it.
Okay, well, there's a lot of people out there that do know that Pistol Pete is the scoring leader.
I know.
And they will, in 2 years, they won't think anything of it.
Oh.
If Antoine Davis buys his way into the CBI and gets the number, all right. But it still doesn't take away that Pistol Pete did it in 84 games without a shot clock and without a three-point line. You want to impress me, do it that way, man. Yeah. It's like, congratulations.
Yeah.
But still Pete's deal.
I'm ready to boot up again.
I'm
just ready to boot back up.
Excuse me. Let's see here. Jeff and Kenner, current MLB streak is 221 right now. Games played for Braves for a Braves player in Olsen. It was Royals. Merrifield had played 553. That number is never going to be touched.
Games?
Yeah.
553.
Yeah.
These are games or innings?
Games.
Games
or innings, yeah.
Huh. Okay.
Our guy Cal played 2632.
Yeah. That's a lot of games.
That's crazy.
That's nuts.
It really is.
That is nuts.
And in today's sports, that probably wouldn't happen because guys sit out
Load management.
so much. Yeah.
I mean, the NBA is the worst.
Oh my goodness,
they're the worst.
Like, you'll think you're about to see Steph, Clay, and Draymond play, and they aren't even playing at all. Like,
no, that's happened to me twice this year in New Orleans
with the Warriors.
With the Warriors.
Wow.
The Warriors came to New Orleans twice in about a 3-week or about a month period, and both times they showed up. Steph, no Clay, no Draymond.
Well, that's happened to me 50 million times in New Orleans with Zion.
I mean, but Zion's really like hurt. Like, these dudes aren't hurt. They'll just sit out a game. Or sit out 2 games or 3.
Right.
I'm just going to take the week off.
I know. It is frustrating.
And just
but I guess you got to know
fresh.
that going into it. You can't get too mad.
Yeah, there should be. The NBA is going to have to do something about it with the way that load management now has become so popular, and it's almost become like a mark of justification for you in the league. Like, I got to sit out. They need me later in the season.
Yeah,
you know, it's like, well, I mean, not really, man. I mean, like, there's a lot of people that paid some good money to watch you play here tonight. I mean, go out there. If you're 70%, give me 100% of 70. You know, I mean, just give me all you got.
Yeah.
For 18, 22 minutes. I mean, that mentality is now, it's changed so much that it's gone.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if it'll ever really make its way back. That seems like something that'll never, you know, I mean, everything kind of comes back. Things are cyclical. I don't know if load management will ever be defeated.
No.
Because once you start taking away time from players and they see that it serves them and they're being told, and, you know, I would not argue. I think that it absolutely preserves their body and it makes them healthy and, you know, it keeps them fresher. But, I mean, you signed up to play basketball.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I was reading about Anthony Davis last night, and I was reading this morning on just kind of like some stuff because Kevin Durant made his debut for the Phoenix Suns 2 nights ago, and he was fantastic.
It was amazing.
Right? Durant was fantastic. And Durant, kind of behind the scenes, he's been a little hurt. You know what I mean? Like, he's been injured. And the word is he went to the Phoenix Suns trainers and said, I'm playing tonight. Like, I've been dealt here. The city's fired up. I'm fired up. My teammates are fired up. I'm ready to play. In the same vein, and I don't think this surprises anybody, especially anybody down here, but I mean, Anthony Davis was sat last night, and this is with LeBron out and the Lakers needing to make a second half push to make the Western Conference playoffs. They need Anthony Davis to step up and play. He played last night with zero pain. He had no pain, but they put him on the shelf because of load management. They want to keep him healthier in the next couple of weeks. Anthony Davis could have walked up to that trainer. There's no way that trainer who is making 8 times, 9 times, 10 times less than Anthony Davis is, and Davis say, not tonight, I'm playing. I'm a superstar. I'm playing. We don't have LeBron. We got to make a push. I need to make, you know, even internally kind of thinking like, maybe I can start to change my reputation.
Well, can he do that, or does he have to go by what the trainers say?
Katie, you think if Anthony Davis walked into the trainer's room and pointed him in his chest and said, I'm playing.
Well, I don't know. Maybe the team owners are like, hell no, you're not.
With
this is money if
no
you get
chance.
hurt.
No, Katie,
No
like,
chance.
if
They-
you
he
go
has
to
the-
them,
The
they'll
Lakers
let you.
need Anthony Davis on the floor if they want to do what they want to accomplish. If they want to make this push and get into the playoffs, they got to win games.
Yeah.
And with LeBron out, and they think LeBron's going to miss the rest of the regular season, and they need somebody to step up. They need somebody to, I mean, you know, Anthony Davis is the second highest paid player on that team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're a superstar in the NBA. If you're a superstar in the NBA, it would really surprise me if there was a superstar in the NBA who has pain-free tolerance. They're pain-free.
Right.
I'm pain-free, and you're telling me I have to sit, and I'm telling you I want to play. There's not a superstar in this league that I would imagine that the franchise would side with and say, "Hey, players stand down, listen to the trainer. I mean, I'm sure there's instances where that happens.
Yeah.
But on nights like last night for the Lakers, where we got to have you, we got to win. We need you. He's not in any pain. Okay, well, he's got to play. Anthony, do you want to play? Yeah, I want to play. Well, then play him. I mean, just that to me is what has been lost in sports, really, and more in the NBA than anywhere else, is just what are we doing?
I know.
Like, what are we here for?
I know. They act like little bitches a lot of the time, don't they?
What's the deal? You know, I mean, like.
And that's more of an NBA thing than
it is.
It totally is, yeah.
Football, they're going out there. Like,
hell, yeah. Look at Patrick Mahomes.
Look at Micah Parsons.
Yeah.
He
look,
dies on the field.
And maybe, MLB and NBA should look at this. NFL plays, those guys get on the field because if they don't, their job's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, why is it so different in the NBA?
Because I would guess that the season's longer and the fall off between the haves and the have-nots in basketball is a lot finer than football.
Yeah, I guess
mean, it feels like in football, I was reading a story on Chad Johnson, Ocho Cinco, was talking about his time in the Canadian League. He went and spent 2 years in Canada after he was done in the NFL. And he said, man, you look around, they got players everywhere.
Yeah.
There's just a cutoff in the NFL where they can't take any more. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of guys in that league that can play on Sundays.
Yeah.
I mean, he was like, I would look across at DBs and see other wide receivers and see skill set guys and be like, why are you not playing in the league? And they're like, man, they don't have enough room for me. I mean, like, I make practice squads and I want to come up here and make money. I want to play. And, I mean, in the NBA,
no, you can't find that.
There's just not that, you know what I mean? There's just not that, there's not that many of them.
Yeah, it's really different.
I mean, to be a superstar in the NBA is a totally different life than any other superstar. They all live high. They all live in a world that we have no relation to. We can't even fathom. But the NBA superstar's life is a lot different than anybody else's.
Yeah.
I mean, especially from the ones,
especially
for the ones that have been tabbed as a superstar since they've been 15, 16 years old. I mean, life for like people like, even like a guy like Paul George.
Yeah.
Like, you knew Paul George was going to be a superstar when he was in high school. His life has been, I mean, the things that he has not worried about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? that would blow your mind.
Yeah.
Right? Is crazy. You know what I mean? And even like Anthony Davis, you know, I mean, like Anthony Davis he probably didn't even want to play.
Yeah.
You know, I mean that because he's probably the greatest example of this generation of superstar. He was what, a decade behind LeBron.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was the 2011 number one pick. LeBron was the 2001 number one pick. 2003.
Yeah,
number one pick.
Yeah.
So he's about a decade behind LeBron. So he's about a generation behind him. Look at LeBron. LeBron's still balling at 38.
Yeah.
Love him or hate him, he's still out there every night lacing them up. You buy the ticket to see LeBron, he's playing. If he can go, he's playing. Anthony Davis, a next generation superstar, you zero pain. No pain on you tonight, but we want to make sure the ankle's okay down the stretch. All right, sweet. I'm going to play. You know,
It's
I mean, it's
so
just
disappointing.
It's a
I've
totally
loved him for so
different.
long.
Anthony Davis is up.
No, but he didn't used to be that way, I feel like. Not in Kentucky.
Yeah, because he couldn't be like that in Kentucky.
Right.
Cal would have just ran him out of there. They had other players. Like,
Yeah.
It wasn't like he was the only one.
And I would even say at that time, Anthony Davis probably still thought that I got to play every night.
Yeah.
He knew he had to play.
There was probably still a mentality of, hey, I got to lace him up. I got to play. You know what I mean? He was still thinking, I want to be the number one pick in the draft. You know what I mean? The only way to do that is I got to prove it. And then once he got around and saw, like, once he started making some money and saw, like, well, hell, Kawhi Leonard doesn't even play. You know,
Why wouldn't you want to? That worries me. That's like, does he even love basketball anymore?
I think that would
doing?
be a huge question. I mean, one of the first lines that scouts look for when evaluating talent and ask other people will be, does he love it?
Yeah.
What happens when I give him all this money? Will he be so distracted that he completely forgets the game? And that happens to a lot of people.
It does.
You know,
but I don't really hear about any kind of drama with Anthony Davis, like off the court, right?
That don't matter.
It doesn't matter.
But sometimes that has an effect, you know? Like, I don't know anything about
I know his dad.
personal
His
life.
dad was a huge malcontent when he was here in New Orleans.
Yeah.
And they were always having to deal with his dad. They were always having to put up with his dad. They were always having to, watch out for his dad showing up and running his mouth and doing something on the road and being at the team hotel. There was always some type of
But not with Anthony. Like, I never see him, like, spending crazy money or partying or doing things.
And that
like,
doesn't mean I mean, he's still a human being. He just might not like basketball.
Yeah.
I mean, like, he still understands, hey, this is the best job I can find in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nowhere else that's going to pay me this amount of money to maybe or maybe not work. Like they're supportive of me not working.
I know, can you imagine?
Like they're like, oh, you don't have to come, but here's your check for $10 million this week.
Katie, he's making $37 million this year.
It's wild.
You think he's not partying and living?
Well, I'm just saying we don't see that. You know, we don't see him like getting in trouble.
He's probably tucked behind a Bel Air wall mansion.
I was about to say, and he lives in LA.
Yeah,
you can't even get a drone where he's partying. I mean, it's
private room only.
And I'm not I mean, look, I think it's a sign of the time. I mean, Anthony Davis is probably one of the exaggerated examples of this era, but I mean, I'm scared to think about what the next generation of athletes going to be.
I think Kawhi is the one we need to be pointing out because he's the one who sits out like a lot.
Does he even play?
Like, yeah,
I mean, like, I can't even remember.
I want to say he might play like one game a week, maybe.
Kawhi Leonard has like played. I mean, I know it's in his contract where he didn't play back-to-backs.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. They pay him max money. Max deals in the NBA pay you what? 17 a year? 18 a year? $18 million a year? And he is built into his contract that when we play back-to-back nights, you don't have to play the second night. I mean, like, that'd be like saying, like, I'm going to pay you $30 million to be the executive of my company. And the days when we have back-to-back meetings, don't worry about showing up to the second day.
$42 million. 43.
$43 million.
Yeah, he's making 42 this year.
And we're going out of and we're out of line by asking you to show up and play.
Yeah.
Like we're the asshole.
What's the least bitchiest sport? If basketball players are the bitchiest,
football probably.
You think football is?
Yes, they bitch, but I mean, like they
not baseball.
And their arguments are worth it.
I feel like baseball players aren't that bitchy.
If I'm a football player, I'm trying to squeeze every single cent out of every single minute that I'm playing because I don't want to be here long.
Yeah.
I want to be here as short as I can and make as much money as I can, invest it smart, and get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
Because it's scary over there, man.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like from the protection of the players to the management at the highest level. There's a story right now with Dan Snyder and Roger Goodell in the NFL that is so greasy and so grimy. I mean, Snyder essentially committed bank fraud, and the NFL signed off on it. And they broke their own. It's such a strange story. I listened to it yesterday on ESPN's podcast, their daily podcast, which is Pablo Torre hosts a daily podcast, and they jump into this story with Don Van Natta, who is a Emmy award-winning investigative reporter of the Washington Commanders, and how screwed up of a workplace it really is. Katie, I think you put the story in the document of the NFL just had their report cards come back.
It's so entertaining.
It is and the NFLPA does this. The Players Association puts out year in, year out, where they put out a survey and they put out, kind of a ranking system to every player in the league, and they get feedback on all of the franchises. Right. Well, evidently, there's a huge rat problem in Jacksonville. They have a huge rat problem in the locker room. And one of the complaints for Jacksonville said, when asked the number one thing that they want to change at their facility, the answer was unanimous: get rid of the rats. Players reported for 3 to 4 weeks during the 2022 season there was a rat infestation in the locker room and in the laundry hampers.
Can you imagine?
The Bidwells with the Cardinals have the reputation of being the worst in the league. They have the worst food. They say their nutrition is terrible, which is a terrible thing to be known for.
And they charge their players to take food home.
They charge their players to take food home in the off season. They do not fly their players first class.
Ew.
I mean, it's just like one of these like just rundown organizations. Now the Bengals aren't that much better. They got a problem with their plumbing, and that was the biggest complaint with the Bengals. They don't have anywhere to charge their cell phones in the locker room. They said, and their plumbing is a huge issue.
So fixable.
And the Commanders, when it came to the Commanders, they hate everything about playing for Washington. Seriously.
They have one of the worst fields.
This was the feedback from the Commanders write-up. They said the Commanders finished dead last in this survey, and it's easy to see why. The players have no faith in Daniel Snyder to upgrade the facility. They feel like the training room is understaffed. Some players are forced to have a roommate at the team hotel the night before games. They don't fly first class. Players also noted that the lack of warm water and poor drainage in the showers. Maybe the Commanders and the Bengals can go in halves on the plumber, they say. But, I mean, could you think, I mean, like, it is amazing to think about how much better Alabama, Georgia, and LSU's facilities are than probably a quarter of the league.
Yeah. And with the money in the NFL.
Like Rashard Lawrence, who plays for the Arizona Cardinals right now, is probably thinking back to his days at LSU where, as a pro, now when he's getting paid to play football, like he's showing up for a job, his facilities while he was at LSU were 10 times better. The treatment that they got, 10 times better. The staff, I mean, we just talked to Bo Lowry over here. I mean, you see the type of intensity that they're putting into the training staff, the medical attention, the facilities that they're building for that section of the program. I mean, it is mesmerizing to see just how badly run some of these NFL franchises are, and none of them compare to the Washington Commanders.
Oh, my goodness.
Like, Daniel Snyder legitimately uses the team as like a piggy bank. Like, he uses it as a place where he can just go peel money off the top, use it in his personal life however he wants, and for whatever reason, the NFL is like ready to take and die on this hill with him and take these bullets. I mean, if you have not read this story about Daniel Snyder or heard about it, it's crazy. I would urge you to go listen to the ESPN Daily podcast from yesterday that was published that talks about it. But Snyder's up there committing like legitimate bank fraud, wire fraud. I mean, like he is like duping his investors. The CEO of FedEx, Fred Smith, is his top minority investor. They had 3 guys that were made up, headed by Fred Smith, who's the CEO of Federal Express, as the minority ownership group who owned 40% of the team. It's written in the bylaws of the team, any spending, anything that is spent on the franchise, any type of debt that is taken on has to be approved by all ownership. Daniel Snyder is the majority leader, the majority owner. He's got a group of 3 guys that are headlined by Smith that are 40% owners. He gets a $55 million loan without anybody knowing about it, without anybody signing off on it. When they do all the investigative reporting, the only other signature on the loan is Roger Goodell. I mean,
sounds like LaToya's running the Commanders.
It is like some of the stories. It's like, say what? Like the NFL over $55 million, and I know that is generational money for all of us, but to the NFL, they'll find that in their ashtray.
I was about to say,
you know what I mean? Like $55 million, they're gonna make that before 10 a.m. And they're dying on the hill of Snyder committing fraud. I mean, like you see the workplace environment, some of the stories of sexual harassment that have come out from the Commanders organization over the last years. I mean, they've had people quit, they've had people paid off, they've had people try to flip. I mean, it's the wild, wild west. I mean, it is like this rich boys club that is untouchable.
Manders.
Like untouchable.
Go Manders, baby.
And you know Dan doesn't have a roommate in his hotel room.
Oh, no.
He owns the hotel.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it's...
Can you imagine, like, putting 2 of those guys in a room together, like, not getting them their own room?
Oh, my God.
It's just like kind of college. Humiliating. Yeah, it's like college.
All over again.
Yeah.
I would rent my own.
Yes, they can't. Oh, why wouldn't they? Yeah.
I mean, if I'm a player, I'm saying there's no way.
Yeah,
there's
I'm not
no way.
Yeah,
like you're a grown ass man.
There's no more rooms left. Cool, I'm going across the street.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm not staying here. Give me the itinerary. Where do I need to be? When do I need to be there? I'll be in my own room. I mean, I'm a professional football player.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
that's sad.
In college, I had my own room. I didn't make it to the pros to get a roommate again.
That's really sad.
It is, man. It's crazy. It's crazy to see how inept some of these. I mean, even, you know, there's a lower tier to even billionaires.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's grades to billionaires. You know, I mean, like you would think, like Bidwell penny pinching his players on food. Like, if I'm Cliff Kingsbury,
bro.
if I'm the old head coach, I'm like, you think we're going to be able to get a free agent if we're charging them for food?
In the off season,
Like, they had complaints in Arizona where they felt like the weight room was unsafe. Like, they thought that, like, people could get hurt in there.
Wow.
Out of date, like, just out of date, out of touch, old. I mean, it was stuff
tough.
where you're like,
Yeah, that's
you
so
own
unfair.
an NFL franchise and you're going to cut corners on the weight room?
Like, out of
You're going to
everything.
cut corners on the nutrition? And, like, Bidwell's like, well, we don't get local support. Nobody buys our suites and nobody pays for a corporate sponsorship. I don't give a damn. Then go cut your sales team.
Yeah.
I mean, don't come down here to the players on the field
To the
and
moneymaker.
Yeah, make us eat fried food all day.
I didn't see the Saints report card, but Jeff says it was all A's except for an F in food and nutrition. I mean, of all places.
I think this is, I mean, like Bo Lowry sat here and told us, this is the fastest growing phase in sports right now is the performance. It's just the performance portion of the organization. LSU is a little bit ahead of their time.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like Dr. Franks and what they're doing from a just Bo Lowry, a lot what he brought in. He mentioned the facility that's going to be a lot of focus on rehabilitation, a lot of yoga, a lot of stretch, they've got like sleep chambers in there to, monitor your sleep if you got sleep apnea.
Isn't
stuff.
that like outside the indoor or like on?
It's
like an add-on to the indoor.
It's an add-on to the indoor. So they're taking away a practice field, so that the turfed practice field now,
the one on the back,
the one in the back corner is going to become now the medical spot, and they're going to turf another field.
And you could just
so they'll have a turf outdoor field. They're So right now they have 1, 2, 3, 4. Is it 4?
There's 4 outside, and then that one, the indoor.
4 in the indoor. So they'll have
taking in the indoor.
So they'll
one?
have 3 outdoor. They'll have 3 outdoor. One of them turfed outdoor. So they'll have 2 grass fields, a turf outdoor, an indoor, and a medical facility now a part of their practice.
That's nice.
And you can just leave practice, go straight into medical.
Absolutely. I mean, like what they want to build is a place where you never have to leave.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, you can go watch video with your coordinator. You can get rehab with your trainer. You can get to the locker room and catch your nap. You can, do all of what you need to do inside of that facility. So, I think that is something that if you're behind, it's not easy to get caught up, but there's a lot of people in that trade right now. I mean, you can go get good people to come in and build you a nutrition plan to make sure that, and I would think in New Orleans, that would be a huge draw.
Yeah, you would think.
I mean, I would think that New Orleans would make that one of its centerpieces of, we're not down here, serving you, gumbo and etouffee, but I mean, the food is top notch. Like, I mean, like you would think like the cuisine would be top of the line. I know that that's going to be a huge emphasis for the Broncos.
Oh yeah, for
sure. I mean, Bo Lowry, as he said, I mean, he got a, Lowry got a, he got a vice president title. He got a GM title. I mean, he's assistant GM title. I mean, he's implementing a lot of programs that are very new age for the NFL in the sense of that department. So it was pretty interesting to see the feedback from NFL players on their own, on their own facilities. I can't believe people are still far behind on this.
I know it's.
I mean,
really
the Kansas
sad.
City Chiefs, the Chiefs training staff ranked as the worst in the league. That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
The players' main issues with the training staff is that they feel discouraged from reporting their injuries. They do not feel like they get a level of personal care that they should, and they fear retribution for speaking up for better care. Despite all of these complaints, the Chiefs still managed to win their second Super Bowl in 4 years in February.
They did lose a lot of players to like season-ending injuries. Like Clyde was out all year, majority of the season. Mecole Hardman was out. Like, they had to just go on free agency and get like 3 receivers.
A lot of people complaining. A lot of franchises complaining about the cuisine. The Colts say They need a new chef. The Colts ranked 16th overall, but their quality of food was the one spot where they were lacking, with players giving them a D grade. Players dislike the food so much that they apparently sometimes bring their own food from home to eat at the facility. When you play for an NFL team, you shouldn't have to pack your lunch, says the write-up. And this is the NFLPA survey that was published by CBS Sports.
It just seems like that's such an easy role to fill, and there would be so many people in line to do that. Like, you're the nutritionist for a professional football team, right?
Yeah, but they need like you need a nutritionist, you need a chef, you need all those people to put it together.
Yeah. Still, that just seems like a really cool role that would be easy to fill and do it the right way.
Nutritionists out there, I guess.
I mean, I don't know. That's strange to me.
It is weird.
It is really weird. That's sad.
I think the Ravens one is the kind of
strength coach.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is unfortunate.
They don't like their GM either.
Well, the GM's he's the Lamar situation.
Yeah.
You can see it on social media right now. I mean, they're breaking that locker room up.
Yep.
That locker room is becoming splintered because of what's going on with this Lamar situation. And Lamar's playing it out on social media, and the teammates are following on social media, and Baltimore's now, it feels like, in a position where they can't win.
Yeah, and the GM came out yesterday at the Combine and said they asked him what position he was looking at, or what position he felt like they could get better at, and he was like, receiver. And one of the receivers went on Twitter and was like, well, I mean, if y'all would run an offense that helped the receivers, then we would probably be better, but we aren't. And so, yeah, it's bad in Baltimore right now.
Yeah, it's bad in Baltimore right now. It is.
But not worse than Washington.
No, Washington is a different level bad.
Yeah, it is a different level bad.
It's a workplace environment that
toxic.
At time, it was absolutely toxic. I mean, it was scary at times for females.
Yeah.
I mean, it was fearful to show up for I don't know if it's been, but I mean, it's definitely been outed. I don't know if it's been fixed.
Probably not.
I mean, because he's still around.
Yeah, so no.
Yeah, and it's been stated by players that they have the worst playing surface in the league. Multiple players have said the Washington Commanders have the worst field.
Everything that they were graded on, they were the worst.
Yeah.
Every single thing.
They almost killed Jalen Hurts last year. Stadium fell.
Oh, that's right.
So.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, have a great weekend. Make sure to hit that like button, share button, comment button. Don't forget about Mic'd Up and Mikey Matuk and Jared Mitchell coming your way this afternoon, getting you set up for this weekend's series of LSU baseball. Got a 4-game set heading your way, getting cranked up tonight as the Tigers take on Butler at 6:30 inside the box. Appreciate you spending the week here with us. Make sure and share on the way out if you don't mind. We'll be back with you Monday morning at 7 a.m. Have a great weekend.